Feedback. Feedback.
Hi, this is Theo Broughton,
And I am Thabiti Mpinga,
inviting you to join us each Monday at 9 a.m. for Feedback.
a positive image production by Hood Research.
Encourage others to tune in each Monday on
Comcast Detroit, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, watch WHPR TV Network anywhere.
and take us along with you.
Feedback. Feedback.
You're tuned in to Feedback, a positive image production by Hood Research. My name is Theo Broughton, co-founder of Hood Research, and my co-host
Thabiti, and we welcome you to the program.
is a lifetime member of Hood Research, by the way. Oh, we're getting deeper and deeper into wintertime. But we know it comes every year, so we just roll with it, I say. And there's so much going on. I just want to say happy Monday to some people, Katrina and to Betty, and to Miss Farmer, and to Richard, and who else? I don't know, Carl, and who you want to say hello to?
Shout outs to Professor Griggs and Sister Jackie, Sister Ruth, Brother James Ford, and an extremely big shout out to my son, Clifton, who's celebrating his 40th birthday today.
Oh,
So-
happy birthday, Clifton. Oh, wow.
It reminds me how old I'm getting.
Oh, we won't
Love you,
claim
son.
that kind of thing. We'll not claim that. There's so much that's taking place in and around our community, you know. There are complaints by the Republicans and the whites because the young lady basketball player has been released from prison in Russia, and she's back here in the United States, and so of course that was going to raise a lot of disgust with those who, first of all, are against the president. So no matter what, they're going to get flack. You know?
Right.
Yeah, and then we have Kwanzaa, which is a very exciting and important time of the year. When we talk about the principles of Kwanzaa, it just makes me disappointed that the time is when the holiday is on, school is out, and not enough instructors have put this in their curriculum, you know, in the school, so that our young people really don't get immersed in the importance of practicing Kwanzaa principles. you
And
know.
I would add that the most important thing is for parental involvement with your school, whatever school your child attends. It's up to you to put the pressure on them because, as we know, people won't do things, whether it's politicians, employees for a group, or maybe church members. If you don't put pressure on them, then they're going to always remain in a relaxed posture. So it's up to the community, and it's always up to the community, which is what Kwanzaa is about as well, to put emphasis and put pressure on people, because some people will just do their job and go home, or do a half behind job, as they would say, and go on home. But if we put some fire up under them, they say, oh, they got the spotlight on us, we better do something, because they won't take it off. So I'm just imploring everyone, it's up to you to make that difference, because they're not going to do it on their own.
And what makes it more difficult for, I would say, publicity's sake or marketing's sake, is the fact that it's from December the 26th through New Year's Day, you know. But there is a program that's going to take place at the Dr. Charles Wright Museum on December the 29th, starting at 5 p.m. And then Hood Research is going to do Kwanzaa also at the Reverend
King
Charles-
Solomon.
Right, Reverend Charles Williams Church, King Solomon Baptist Church. And that will be New Year's Day starting at 3 p.m. So jot that down on your calendar. so that you can participate.
And that's why I say, which I failed to do at the beginning of the show, have your pen and paper handy. And we're going to give this information again throughout the show.
That's right. We're expecting Gloria Lee to call in this morning, and she's a writer for the Native Sun newspaper, and she does a show here on WHPR. Women of Courage is the title of her show. And then we're also expecting Kwabena from Chicago to call in about this new Grammy fiasco. That's something. You know, we talk about the fact that the music, and there's no problem with rap music as far as I'm concerned, that has positive lyrics. And all of a sudden we were bombarded with what they call gangster rap and negative lyrics, and it seems to get worse and worse, just goes down in the gutter. So it was sad the last time that Kwabena was on with us. He said that there had been 250 killings of rappers, and 200 out of the 250 were killed by gunfire. So it's letting us know that the gangster rap, the rap with the negative lyrics, is having a negative influence, and we want to be aware and concerned about that. You know,
And we have to keep in mind how it shapes the mentality of some, particularly those who are weak-minded, and influences them to act out that behavior. Just like I always use this as an example. I remember back in the day, us young men would go see Bruce Lee movies and at Fox Theater or whatever theater, and when we came out, we found ourselves not against each other, but we found ourselves trying to kick and do all kind of Bruce Lee stuff. So I'm just saying how media itself has a very strong influence, and particularly when you listen to some of these rap songs, but they do it with all songs, but particularly rap, in which they have them in heavy rotation. So not only is it getting you on the conscious level, but on a subliminal level. I do want to add, though, that there's one female rapper, who says, well, she just won an award, I think, last year when they had the Grammys, I believe it was. Her name is Megan Thee Stallion, and you may have heard many people, including Sam Riddle and others, mention this rapper. But the thing is she says she wants to do other things because she just graduated from the University of Houston with her bachelor's degree. She says, but the record companies won't let her do the kind of material she wants to, so she has to do things that are sexually seductive, gutter, I would say, making women more prone to just trashing themselves. Instead of, as my shirt says, you can see, respect yourself, the music she does make them disrespect themselves. So she says she wants to do other things, but they won't let her.
There's got to be other attorneys on the planet who could help her look at her contract and find out what can be done as far as the record companies are concerned. And then the question would be, can she leave them? Gladys Knight left Motown, and she did fine. And it just makes you wonder. Stevie Wonder left Motown. He's still doing fine. So, I just have to wonder if she is serious about wanting to clean up her act. Maybe she should,
One of the things that they have a problem with is there's probably 5 major music companies that handle well over 80, maybe 90% of the distribution, because we don't have, unfortunately, the ability for distribution. The same would be for films. We don't have the outlets where we can make sure that it gets in a number of venues across the country. So this is very devastating. Even though she's got money where she could just quit, but then she wouldn't be relevant at all. So I do agree that maybe there's something in the contract where she could expand her topics as opposed to have them narrowed down to just sex and drinking and that kind of thing, But we have to stand behind her too, because if we don't support her financially, then she just becomes she disappears from the scene.
Right.
So it's up to us as a people to say we demand more. And again, that gets back to you who are out there in the community.
And then, of course, they will replace her with another woman who will say, yeah, just put me on the scene and I'll do whatever.
Waiting in the wings.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wow.
And the almighty dollar is the motivation that gives impetus to this type of thing. And because most of them, I've even heard male rappers say, I've got some positive stuff on my stuff, but the radio station's not going to play that. They're just going to play what they think draws an audience. And I guess if you got an appetite for something, they're going to feed you.
But that's, that's sad. That just is. I just think about in history how things were different, and what was shown on TV when TV was invented was what would you say?
Wholesome.
That's a good word. Right. Was more wholesome, and I'm not believing that people decided we don't want anything wholesome. We want to see people having sex on TV. I just believe that the producers of these programs decide that they want to appeal to the emotions, the desires, because they talk about people having fantasies. Okay, maybe that's a good term. And the producers of the shows want to appeal to the fantasies of people. So they said, okay, well, we're going to put this out there. And they started doing that.
Yeah, an erosion of morality and the morality so-called police who would do things, because there were times, like I know some of the people who are viewing this remember back in the 60s, they had the eeny, teeny, bitsy, weeny, something bikini. Well, there was a time prior to that you couldn't have a woman in something that barely covered any parts of her private upper or lower body. But slowly they just kind of eked it into the thing. Now, one of the good things that came, morality police, is they stopped doing the commercials for cigarettes, but I guess there was enough outrage because of, let's say, people getting cancer and the health issue of it, so they were able to do it. Now, we could do that with anything if we as a people got together, and this goes across all racial groups because everyone has to be exposed to that on television. But if there's not enough outcry, the people who are trying to sell the product are not going to change nothing. And like you said, some people are actually entertained by the negative and the degrading stuff. They actually lust for it.
And now it has gotten so sad that you find that since 98, 99, when the governor sent a notice down to the mental hospitals, mental clinics, etc., and said, put them out. Turn out the lights, lock the doors, go home and have a nice life. That was a shock to the workers as well as to those who were inside these facilities. And that increased the homeless population. But the sad part is we have had 3 governors since that happened, and they have not sought anywhere that I've heard or read that the hospitals, clinics, centers, etc., be restored. Have you?
No, and again, our silence is what allows them or gives them permission to do what they want, and those who are affected, some of them can't speak up for themselves because of let's say the mental challenges that they may have, and those who have family members tend to want to carry the burden rather than say, well, because we're paying taxes, number one. You're paying taxes on just about everything you have to deal with. So again, when we don't, and I'll use this recent midterm runoff in Georgia as an example, where the people galvanized. I have give a lot of kudos to Stacey Abrams. When you get somebody out there who stirs the pot up, beats the hornet's nest and get things going, they say, I believe about there's a great percentage of people who didn't even vote in the original midterm, but when the runoff came, they said, oh, wait a minute, we can't have Herschel, so they got up. So it's the same kind of thing when you start beating the drum and people hear that drum beat and say, hey, you know what, we can't let this happen. And so we have to, as a community, a city, country, make more noise. And as we know, I just throw this in as a side note, we know that Kanye West and, or Ye as he called themselves, and Kyrie Irving were getting a lot of backlash. And I won't name the group, but we all know the ones who are opposing them so vehemently, even though some of what they said was the truth. It's just that, and there was outcry in the NBA by some of the players, but again, if it's only 3 of us shouting when there's 3,000 of us that are affected, then they're not going to hear the 3. But if at least half of that group will do that, so we have to really, really roll up our sleeves, stop being seduced by television, getting caught up in soaps,
Right.
and just be active, not inactive.
Absolutely. And that is a good recommendation for those who are tuned in. Call the governor's office. You have a menu of buttons, push this if you want that information, push this, Then they have, recommendations for the governor. Then they also have a button for constituent services. And you actually can call and tell the governor what, you want to say about the mental illness and population, etc. And then you can call back and press the 1 for constituents services, and you can make the same point.
I've actually called the governor's office before. There was a host on another station who happened to give the number out, and I don't recall the issue, but it was enough to stir me up. I said, look, I got to call and let Whitmer know, I'm not into that big Gretch and all these little nicknames and things like she's one of the homegirls. That ain't what we elected her for. So I called and I actually spoke with somebody, and I think you said this before, Theo, that one call or one letter represents a certain number of people in their eyes.
It does.
And that's where you all need to get in on it. It's just do it and be done with it. It takes you 2 or 3 minutes of your time out of a 24-hour day.
Right.
That's not a large investment, but the returns on it could be very large.
Yes.
Which is what we're shooting for.
Absolutely.
I don't hesitate to speak my mind. It may not always be welcome, but I got to say what I got to say.
That's right. And more people should be like that. You don't need to be timid about what's going on. And the response from one person can make a difference, I guess it would be good to point out that Dr. Martin Luther King, one person, and he stepped up to the plate and started advocating for the black community. One person did that.
And it's interesting because he was a man with a vision, and he was able to get others to first they understood their situation. And he was able to get them to buy into that vision, and that's what allowed SCLC to flourish. But it started with just one individual. We look at Marcus Garvey. He found a few like-minded people. Before you knew it, he was talking to African countries, setting up shipping lines, had a newspaper, and I must say, when I look at some of his pictures, he had that his uniform, the regalia and everything, and other people marching. I mean, it was a beautiful sight to see all those black people saying, look, we understand this is early 1920s America, to be able to see us saying, look, we've got a common goal, one nation, one unity. This was his platform, but again, as Steele said, one person, and it has to begin somewhere. Two people started with Hood Research,
All
and
right.
look at us now.
Yes, dun, 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 dun. 30 years.
Yeah.
Oh man, and it's really good to put that project on, Neighbors Helping Neighbors, and that's to inspire the residents in the community to work together, to look out for one another. That doesn't take a lot. And I remember years ago, this program you participated in, I think you said, the KDB Teens.
Right.
It was just Keep Detroit Beautiful. Teens, and it motivated them to get involved in this community where they live, and they, I guess, never thought of it, and then somebody brought it up, like, oh, I want to participate in that. How did you feel?
And the opportunities are there. It's interesting because I got involved in that, and every year the city of Detroit had different programs, because I remember they had the summer work programs, and you could enlist. Now, I'm a teenager, and I don't know what it was. I guess it's maybe something that my ancestors inspired in me. But I got out one year. I was cutting the grass at some of the city parks, and they didn't pay much money, but it gave you a chance to be responsible. So I remember cutting at Belle Isle Golf Course, and then the Irma Henderson Park, and a few other places. And we didn't have power mowers. We just had those push type, the old school type. And I used to, I said, well, we're not making much money, but we making muscles, because trying to push those kind of mowers without anything. But it was wanting to become a part of something, and those programs being available. And so I developed a sense, I guess, of responsibility and purpose, and I was doing it ever since 16, 15 years old, and that's why I'm still doing what I do now. It's just we have to get them involved. But I will say this, still, right now, I had a conversation with somebody this past weekend, and I say, we didn't have the temptations of wanting to have Nike shoes or Prada or Louis Vuitton. We didn't have those little temptations that media does, and so
It had big price tags on
right. So we were a little bit more responsible, but now they're throwing this stuff at children left and right. And I think you may have even said something about the shoes with the red bottom on them. You just paint a little red on the bottom and then say, hey, look, $500.
There's $700 shoes. And you could buy a small can of paint, probably from that, it's an art supply store, just some of that. And paint it around the bottom of a pair of heels you got that you like. Is somebody going to say, hand me that foot, let me check that shoe out? No, I don't think so.
Well,
It's stupid.
I don't know if it was Barnum or Bailey, but one of them said that a sucker is born every minute, and they found a lot of suckers.
Yes. And that's one reason why I was being hard on the sororities and the fraternities, because they seem to enjoy parties, and most people enjoy parties. But when you have a group that has pledged to do good in the community and encourage education and all of those things, and you let opportunities go past, when the example of what you can do, was shown with that Wakanda movie.
Yes.
Man, Black Panther, they bought out movie theaters. The whole theater made it possible for young people who might not have been able to afford a ticket to go in and see that movie full of pride and respect, right? And that was a wonderful thing. But when it comes to voting, they act like they're dumb, deaf, and blind, and every other thing. I'm like, well, wait a minute. If you got that kind of influence, why not use it where it is important?
It would be nice if some of the membership had that kind of a consciousness to be able to pursue that. And I say that because there was an organization I was going to join. This was a Masonic organization. There's a number of them out there, so I'm not slighting anything in particular. But just to say that when I talk with one guy, because you always have to be presented to the group by somebody who's in the group, and the guy told me the only reason he was a Mason was so he could go to the parties. I'm like, man, that has nothing to do with what I'm interested in.
That's what I'm talking about. And then it becomes incumbent upon the leadership of the Masons, the sororities, the Eastern Star, the fraternities, to say, hey, I like parties too. But because we've come together, we need to work on some positive, respectful, motivating issues in the community. We are now at the bottom of the hour, and we have to pause for station identification calls, and we'll be back. Call some people, tell them to tune in as well. We'll be back momentarily.
It's time to do something more. Join the Detroit Police Department, either straight out of high school or make a bold career change. Officers start at $40,000, plus health insurance, paid vacation, retirement plans, and more. Apply online at joindetroitblue.org.
It's the These Nuts Show with your host, Butter and friends. Butter here, magician escape artist, practicing for my show tonight. Come on in, have a seat.
All right, everybody settle. Butter, you're on in 5, 4, 3, 2.
In a few seconds, you gotta be enough to get out of this one. Twist a little turn, ta-da! It's showtime. It's your old friend Butter here. I may be a nut, but I know to wear my mask. Please welcome my first guest tonight, fitness guru, Wally Wallman.
Wally Wallman here to tell you to wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds so you will stay healthy and strong like me.
Almond Cruz here, sliding in with the news. Distance is what we must do to stay away from the chew and other germs in the air that might be trying to get on you. Social distancing is a wonderful way to see friends. As long as you're 6 feet apart, you win.
Hey there, friends. I wouldn't miss this for the world. It's me, Pumpkin Spice, your healthy girl. Remember, it's important to use your kind hearts and follow the signs to stay healthy and safe at all times.
Chica Chiminsky here to say, don't forget the little ones that need you to lead the way. That's how we remember to wash our hands, mask, and social distance today.
Morgan Raisin. Yes, it's me, here to sing about health and safety. We are all here to help get a message out to your grapevine, teaching healthy choices to stay safe all the time.
Don't let these guys drive you nuts. Put your mask on first. They'll let you be. And it keeps me safe from the
chew
that's trying to get on me.
Butter me up. She's right, you know. Thank you, Hallie Cranberry, for joining the show. Let's all be nuts about our health. Social distancing, wash your hands frequently, use hand sanitizer, and wear a mask. Practice what we learned to stay away from the germs. We're all in this together. Coming soon, the many adventures of these nuts in a theater near you.
Okay.
This is Bruce Simpson, your City of Detroit Ombudsman. I am here to address all of your complaints and concerns. If you need assistance regarding city services, please contact my office at 313-224-6000 or contact us via email at ombudsman@detroitmi.gov. This is Bruce Simpson, your City of Detroit Ombudsman.
Feedback. Feedback.
Hi, this is Theo Broughton,
And I am Thabiti Mpinda,
inviting you to join us each Monday at 9 a.m. for feedback.
a positive image production by Hood Research.
Encourage others to tune in each Monday on
Comcast Detroit, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, watch WHPR TV Network anywhere.
and take us along with you.
Feedback. Feedback. Feedback.
You. We have returned, and our guest this morning is Kwabena from Chicago and Gary, Indiana area. Are you with us, Kwabena?
I'm with you. Good.
All right. Happy Monday. He's been with us before, and we have talked about the influence that negative music has on our community, our young people, and also videos as well. Kwabena, share with us the name of your organization, and then let us know the latest.
Okay, the group called the Clear Airways Project.
Clear the Airways Project. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and our goal is to remove from ratchet radio stations that specifically target African children and youth music that demeans, denigrates them, encourages them to hate themselves, disrespect our women, drops N-bombs on us, and tells us to shoot and kill each other.
Right.
That's our goal, and because that's what they're doing in this music. It's pretty sad.
Mm-hmm. I remember last year a report that you shared with us about the fact that there were 250 rappers who were dead, and 200 of them were killed by gunfire. It just is awful. And the young one was in I guess Los Angeles doing good for his community in his neighborhood, and I guess he was doing a good job, and nobody wanted to see him do a good job, so they killed him.
Yeah, Nipsey Hussle, and I don't know. I wouldn't say nobody wanted him to see him do a good job. It's just that, we live in a culture of violence, of which even Nipsey himself kind of promoted through his music. So it's like it's just it's a scourge in our society right now, and it's been like this for a couple of decades, and so we have to address it. It's not our fault that this is taking place. We're not responsible for all of this that's happening right now. But what is our responsibility is to put a stop to it.
And brother, let me ask you this. My name is Thabiti, Theo's co-host. Now, one of the things that I find interesting, now, although, and as you said, Nipsey was promoting negative lyrics and he was part of the gang culture, but when he started to enterprise, because I've listened to a number of his interviews, he was actually, making positive moves, which is where his Marathon clothing company and then other things were starting to become, a little bit more. He was showing an entrepreneurial side, I should say that. So what I'm wondering, and I see Tupac and some of the other rappers in the same light, that maybe the government, and I just want your thought on this, knows that when someone has a strong influence, and we can say that for our politically, those who were socially active like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, that Nipsey and others were moving towards a positive direction, and maybe the powers that be say, well, before this man or woman who has a strong influence over the culture is able to spread that idea, we need to find a way to get rid of them. So what's your thought on that?
I think that conspiracy piece
yes
could be true. And a lot of these conspiracies, I don't put nothing past them. I do not put anything past these beasts. However, because again, those are the ones who are promoting and pushing this negative, vile, vulgar, just horrible music. And even if Nipsey, Brother Hussle was, doing some proper things in terms of, our putting stuff in our community that's going to benefit the people monetarily, the content of the music hadn't changed enough. It was still ratchet, M-bombs were still being dropped, and it was just still too much of that. And maybe not as much as the others, but rappers like Nipsey, he knows better. I mean, I think about like Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., Fred Hampton's son, when he saw Nipsey one time and he asked him about his father. And of course I know Fred Hampton, Chairman Fred Hampton of the Black Panther Party. What kind of man would I be if I did not know him? And so those sort of things, we understand he has some consciousness to him, but when you deal with, but still your content of your music is such that it's dangerous. And it's been proven to be dangerous by the statistics that our sister Theo just shared from 2021 with the 250 rappers dying, 200 of them from gun violence.
And I don't know, I look at, I guess, when they started out originally, coming out of the culture that they grew up in. And so the maturation process of becoming more enlightened and understanding their effect. Because I was telling Theo when we were talking in the first half hour of the show that I heard an interview where Megan Thee Stallion said she actually wants to move her music in a different direction, but the powers that she's under contract to want her to maintain that negative, the negative messaging that she's doing. And then Theo and I were talking, and it's the idea that they could get maybe a lawyer to look at their contracts and see if there's a way that they can allow themselves to branch out. Because I think about Queen Latifah. She started out as a rapper, but she was definitely positive in her message, and then she moved on to be a singer and an actress. So Megan Thee Stallion, and I'm sure you know her name very well, said that she wanted to transition to a higher quality of music and with better messages, but the company that she's under contract to won't allow that. So what do you think about, let's say, these musicians who are trapped in contracts to perform a certain way?
Kwabena, did we lose him?
I think
Yeah, we hear you.
I think that it's force-fed. I mean, that they're being controlled like that and made to make music a certain way that demeans and denigrates us. But because we know that's part of the conspiracy. That's really not a conspiracy because we know it's what they do when we get it from people like Megan and people like Young Buck from he was part of the G Unit back in the day when he told them when they told him he wanted to make a song about police brutality. They told him no, but it was okay to make a song about shooting ends or whatever or jacking cars. So yeah, we know about that, and people like Megan and all of them. They say that, but they're basically, selling us out. And another thing about Megan, we refuse to call her a stallion because, as you know, a stallion is a male horse. So we call her by her, I guess it's maybe a little bit better, her slave name. It's just sad, but we call her Megan P. That's her name. But that's how pervasive and crazy they are, and with this music and what they're doing it to us and how it's influencing us. But,
well,
that's what they do, and we know they do that.
Right.
They've been doing that. They control what we hear.
Right. Well, there's two things. One, when drugs were freely distributed in the black community, we had a problem. But when the drugs started spreading into the suburbs, they got a new name. They call them opioids. And the young white teenagers and young white adults got involved. So, okay. Kwabena, are you on a speaker? Do you have your phone turned on speaker?
Yeah, I did. Why, you guys get the feedback, huh?
Yeah, I did. When it was on speaker.
I'm here. I'll take it off.
Okay. So, the question now is, as this music is progressing and the lyrics are derogatory, and the videos are so bad. If that spreads into the white community, where they seem to love our music, our clothes and slang and all, you even hear news reporters on TV using slang that they heard from within our community. But do you think that it will, as it influences white performers, that then the music producers and the media will start cracking down on it? Did I explain that okay? Uh-oh.
I would say you did. I'd say you did. And I remember there was this white lady who she shared a video, kind of lengthy video, of listening to the song her daughter was playing, and it was just horrific. And I was like, man, this may be what we need right here, because it was affecting white America. And I was wrong, and one of my comrades told me I was probably going to be wrong, because they don't care about the collateral damage that's done. That's when that greed comes into it. And if they don't care about their children getting it, they don't care about ours. So it's out there, because they are, like we know from years, they are the biggest consumers of it, and that's pretty much relative to their size of the population, and the resources they have, and also how our people are cool. I mean, black people are cool. Nipsey Hussle was cool. Some of these rappers that they put out there have a cool persona, and you want to be like them. And that's part of it. And when they push it like that, this is part of the problem with them pushing so much of this poison on the masses of our people, because we also have artists out here who are uplifting the masses, who even uplift white folks. But they don't want to play them because they're cool too, because it's a certain message, like the brother was just saying earlier, that they want to get out there. So this stuff, they know the power of music. They know the influence of music. And we have to understand the power and influence of music. And we really do. We really do understand it, our youth especially, because we do a survey. As a matter of fact, we started this survey in Detroit several years ago, and it's called the State of Black Music Survey. And we ask these questions. Give me the percentage of music that you and your peers listen to that, number one, drops N-bombs on us. Number two, refer to our sisters, our mamas, our daughters, our girlfriends, our wives, our grandmamas as B's and H's. And number three, brags about and encourages black people to shoot and kill each other. And I'm going to tell you, we started in Detroit. We've done the survey in San Diego, in New York, in Tampa, in Portland, and everywhere in between. And the numbers are always 70, 80, 90, sometimes 100% on all three questions. On all three questions about dropping N-bombs on our people in the music, referring to our sisters as B's and H's, and telling us to shoot and kill each other. That's all around the country on these radio stations, and that's what's promoted to the black masses, especially the youth, all around these United States of America.
Well, with that kind of activity going on, and the kind of information that you're able to share with people about it, why do you think that the NAACP won't speak up, do whatever they can to fight against it? The Urban League is there. Black elected officials are there. Why do you think that there's no wholesale response against it?
I struggle with that. We definitely struggle with that, because we talked to NAACP leaders and officials locally, Urban League officials.
Right.
They like for instance, the current Urban League president in Chicago is Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson. And under her administration in Gary, when she was the mayor, we passed a resolution condemning the killer radio stations in Chicago, which is the poster child for this fratricide. So they know. The mayor of New York, Adams, not too long after he first got in office, and these murder numbers have increased. This violence has increased in New York.
Oh,
But he
goodness.
talked about the drill music, which originated in Chicago, even though the music was violent before that. But he talked about the drill music.
Mm-hmm.
And so he comes to Chicago to meet with Mayor Lightfoot to deal with this violence piece.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched a 25-minute press conference, and neither one of them said anything about this Kill Black People drill music that was founded in Chicago, that's played on the radio all throughout Chicago. They didn't say anything about it. And so Mayor Adams, evidently he got the information from his son, but he already knew already because I think he had a conversation with Bob Law, had a conversation with him about this before he became mayor. So he really knew. But he supposedly had a meeting with some rappers and some Def Jam people, and then all of a sudden you don't hear about that anymore. Some of them, they're paying them off. I'm not sure what they're doing. I don't know if people are scared. I don't know what the problem is. But as you say, as your question states, if the NAACP would do this properly, or the Urban League, or some of these organizations, I've even talked to some of these church organizations, if they would come out and force, we could put a stop to this tomorrow. So it's important. But in the meantime, the NAACP is nominating and awarding artists who make songs about shooting up funerals.
What?
There's a song called "Life Is Good" from Drake and Future. We call him No Feature. And this song, this rapper talks about, I'm gonna put your face on the news because I'm gonna murk you. Then I'm gonna pay $20,000 in drug money to have your hearse shot up.
Oh.
And we got 15 people shot in a funeral, 10 sisters in Chicago. One of the sisters, I understand, got her breast shot off. We had 9 people shot at a funeral in Pittsburgh not too long ago. And and the NAACP is giving an image award or nominating that song for an image award.
Oh, wow.
What kind of image is that, I would ask. And, one of the things, I was talking with someone, and they're in the 40, let's just say they were the generation behind me. But we were talking about how strong the influence was. And I used to use this example with my children when they were coming up. They were like maybe 9, 10 years old. And Snoop had a song where he said, rolling down the street, smoking Indo, sipping on gin and juice. So what I did with my children is I wanted them to rationalize that. So I would ask them, now, does it make sense for somebody to be riding down the street, smoking marijuana, drinking alcohol? I didn't try to tell them that they shouldn't do that. I asked them, did they think that made sense? And I made them rationalize for themselves whether it was something that was sensible or not. And they said, no, that doesn't make sense. So I made them answer the question that I didn't want to impose upon them and say, well, I don't ever want to see y'all doing this, because a lot of times when we try to forbid our children doing things, we entice their imagination to want to attempt that type of thing. But what I was saying to this person in a conversation over the weekend was, we were wise enough to distinguish between the entertainment value of the music and the actual going out there and acting it out. And unfortunately now it seems like more of the youth, particularly because of rap music, and I want you to, for the audience also, to tell them what drill music is, but it seems like now there's no ability to distinguish between reality and entertainment, so they act out what they hear. But if you would share with the listeners who are not familiar with what drill music is, so that way they'll have a better idea.
You said what my music is?
No, what drill music is. A lot of our listeners don't know what that is.
Drill music is just another extension of gangster rap. Just music, basically, just about shooting and killing people, drilling them with bullets, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the drill, to go after your opposition or your ops. They call them ops. And it's just basically an extension of what was already happening during the 90s. Like their ideological fathers are Snoop Dogg's and the Dr. Dre's and stuff like that. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is
that's
so
what drill
sad.
music is.
I listen to more news and talk stations, but I think on the days coming up, I want to turn to some of the other stations to hear, particularly the stations that cater to a white audience. If they will just interject any of these in there, because it seems to me that young white teenagers follow the black community. As I was saying earlier, that you hear them using slang that was created by our folk. it would be interesting to see and to hear about that kind of.
They probably wouldn't allow it.
Oh yes.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't allow it, but it's just like, you know, how the N-bomb is allowed and how certain things that we allow that we shouldn't allow. That's why it's our responsibility to put a stop to it.
Mm-hmm.
I was on a plane coming from New Orleans recently, Southwest Airlines, and you know they offer you the music or the movies or you know free television, things like that if you hook up online on these airlines.
Mm-hmm.
So I opted for the music this time, and I'm listening to the music. I mean, there's categories. There's blues. There's classical. There's there's different categories of music. And there's one for hip hop. So I go to the one for hip hop, and I'm on Southwest Airlines, this major airline. And I'm hearing N-bombs being dropped. I'm hearing disrespect to women. You know, vulgar stuff. Of course, can't say on the radio, but they can play it on Southwest Airlines.
What?
Songs about spinning blocks, which is spraying blocks, which is again like just still. It's not spraying. It's not doing your neighbor a favor and spraying their garden while they're out of town,
right?
Which also can be dangerous for black men, as we saw in Florida this year. But no, it's about spraying your block or spinning your block with bullets.
Oh wow!
And this is on the Southwest Airlines flight.
You know, I think about this is a movie reference or a movie actor reference, but it seems like I'm just going to use James Dean as an example. He had Rebel Without a Cause, that bad boy kind of thing, and so he was probably one of the first. It could have been Errol Flynn or something like that, but definitely James Dean had that type of imagery, and so, or I would even go with Happy Days, just only in terms of the character defines, but there's always been this attraction to negativity, and it's become so much more widespread. And as we already know, the images of being a gangster, because I think about, and you're from Chicago, so I know you aware of Common, people who were actually, had a little bit more of a positive thing. I think J. Cole kind of does that same thing now. There are rappers out there who don't promote the negative violence, but again, and J. Cole's worth over $100 million. People don't know that silently, but you don't hear his music as heavy as you would hear something from, let's say, a New York or a West Coast rap, or even some of the Southern rappers now, where their whole platform is based on negativity, materialism, alcoholism, drug use, and sexuality. I mean, those seem to be the main topics that they want to make sure that they continue to promote. And people don't know, Theo and I have talked about this, what they call subliminal seduction. So even if you're listening to it and you don't think you're going to buy into it, it plays into your subconscious, and you might find yourself acting out some of that behavior just because it's in heavy rotation. I know, Brother Kwaba, now that you're aware how that heavy rotation of that negativity, at some point it seeps so much into you that you end up trying to imitate that character. So
let me give you an example. Let me give you an example of this, what you're talking about. And first of all, I do want us to be careful with J. Cole. J. Cole is like Drake. I believe it's his mother who's European and his daddy is African. But he can't even seem to make a line in the songs now without dropping. And so even though he has, and this is why people like J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar, even though Kendrick Lamar was brought to us by Dr. Dre, so you got to be wary of that.
Right.
But J. Cole, he did a song with 21 Savage and others, Travis Scott, where he's just totally disrespecting our women and still talking about shooting and killing people. So and he knows better. He drops N-bombs all the time. He almost can't even make a verse. Sometimes he can't even make a line without dropping an N-bomb in it. And so we just check out some of his stuff too when we talk about that. Cause,
okay.
But your question though. Here was the example. So in 2016 we had 780 people murdered in Chicago.
Oh, God.
And so we got those numbers on January 1st, 2017 paper. It was in the newspaper. It gave the pictures of a whole bunch of the people, and it gave those horrific numbers. We had almost 12 people shot every day that year. So by the end of January 2017, the No Heart station, they call themselves iHeart, formerly Clear Channel. They got like 28 stations around the country at least. that play this urban slop hop in cities all around the country, telling our people to kill each other.
Wow.
But they did a top 10, and in the top 10, 5 of the top 10 songs asked this question. I'm going to see if you guys can answer it. My sister Phil, you may know it already. But the question is, if Young Metro don't trust you.
If Metro don't trust
If Young Metro don't trust you. You know the answer to that?
We will give our people who are tuned in some time to think about it, because we have to take a top of the hour break, station identification. So you all think about that, and we will be back momentarily with our guest, Kwabena from Chicago.
Yeah, we'll give you the answer. We'll give you the answer to that when we come back.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
This is Bruce Simpson, your City of Detroit ombudsman. I am here to address all of your complaints and concerns. If you need assistance regarding city services, please contact my office at 313-224-6000 or contact us via email at ombudsman@detroitmi.gov. This is Bruce Simpson, your City of Detroit ombudsman.
It's the These Nuts Show with your host, Butter and friends. Butter here, magician escape artist, practicing for my show tonight. Come on in, have a seat.
Everybody settle. Butter, you're on in 5, 4, 3, 2.
In a few seconds, you gotta be enough to get out of this one. Twist a little turn, ta-da! It's showtime. It's your old friend Butter here. I may be a nut, but I know to wear my mask. Please welcome my first guest tonight, fitness guru, Wally Wallman.
Wally Woodland here to tell you to wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds so you will stay healthy and strong like me.
Almond Cruz here, sliding in with the news. Distance is what we must do to stay away from the chew and other germs in the air that might be trying to get on you. Social distancing is a wonderful way to see friends. As long as you're 6 feet apart, you win.
Hey there, friends. I wouldn't miss this for the world. It's me, Pumpkin Spice, your healthy girl. Remember, it's important to use your kind hearts and follow the signs to stay healthy and safe at all times.
Chica Chiminsky here to say, don't forget the little ones that need you to lead the way. That's how we remember to wash our hands, mask, and social distance today.
Morgan Raisin. Yes, it's me, here to sing about health and safety. We are all here to help get a message out to your grapevine, teaching healthy choices to stay safe all the time.
Don't let these guys drive you nuts. Put your mask on first. They'll let you be. And it keeps me safe from the
chew
that's trying to get on me.
Butter me up. She's right, you know. Thank you, Hallie Cranberry, for joining the show. Let's all be nuts about our health. Social distancing, wash your hands frequently, use hand sanitizer, and wear a mask. Practice what we learned to stay away from the chew germ. We're all in this together. Coming soon, the many adventures of these nuts in a theater near you.
You ready to put your podcast on iHeartRadio? Yes, your podcast on iHeartRadio. What about Alexa, Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, Android, or iPhone? Plus live TV streaming. Get your podcast seen and heard all over the world. Call 313-868-6612. Pre-recorded shows are accepted to be archived. This is a WHPR distribution platform. Download the app from the App Store. Go to WHPRTV.com. Channels available for lease 24/7 on Roku, Fire Stick, or Apple TV. Coming soon, subscription and pay-per-view.
Also,
Block Time is available. Get yours. Call 313-868-6612. That's 313-868-6612. Executive producer R.J. Watkins. Program director Henry Tyler. 107.5 FM WGPR HD2. RadioWeCanSee.com.
You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit.
WHPR Detroit HD2.
Feedback. Feedback.
Hi, this is Theo Broughton,
And I am Thabiti Mpinda,
inviting you to join us each Monday at 9 a.m. for feedback.
a positive image production by Hood Research.
Encourage others to tune in each Monday on
Comcast Detroit, Roku, Amazon Fire TV. Watch WHPR TV Network anywhere.
and take us along with you.
Feedback. Feedback. Feedback.
We are with our guest on the last segment of the show, Kwabena from Chicago and Gary, Indiana area. And okay, you have to pose that question again.
Okay, the question is, if Young Metro don't trust you, and the answer, I can tell you now, the answer is, I'm going to shoot you.
Ooh.
And that phrase was in 5 of the top 10 songs in January 2017, less than a month after we got the news in Chicago where 780 people were murdered, 12 people were shot during the day. And so when the brother talk about repetition and rotation, so that when the song's the top 10, it's pretty much in hot rotation. So that means they're playing it about 15, 20 times a day. So can you imagine how many times a day our children and our youth are hearing, if you don't trust somebody, you should shoot them. And this is how horrible they are in Chicago. Well, we are the poster child for all this killing. So that's how crazy they are. But I want to share, if I can, real quick.
Yes.
The Grammys. So the Grammys, Hood Research, the National Congress of Black Women, and also CMOTEP, they all did letters to the Grammys last year because of the vile, vulgar, and ignorant music that they nominate for awards. And so this year, they nominated a sister named Glorilla. She calls herself Glorilla.
Glorilla.
And the name of her song is F-U-C-Nigga Free. So FNF. That song was nominated for a Grammy. So I ask your audience to close your eyes, close your ears before you check that video out, but check that video out. And how dare they nominate some poison and garbage like that for a Grammy Award? So they're at it again.
Glorilla.
They're at it again. And finally, the NBA and their sanctioning of Kyrie Irving for sharing a video that they thought was offensive. But in the meantime, they are constantly promoting and pushing offensive content at their games, allowing all these rappers to come through and rap about dropping N-bombs and disrespecting our women. As a matter of fact, even rap about running trains, drug raping and running trains on our women. And they're at NBA-sponsored basketball games doing this poison. So they need to stop that, too.
Wow. That is something. It is so sad that our people are afraid to speak up. Is that something that is a leftover from the days of slavery where they were beaten so often and so many that they just are afraid to speak up now? It's sad. It is
sad. And on back to the NBA, I mean, they gave Kyrie Irving 6 criteria for him to come back to play ball again in the league. A 5-game suspension and six criteria. And so our criteria was, again, stop promoting this vile, vulgar music, having the music being played at your games and having these artists perform at your games. Number 2, apologize for it. Number 3, you talk about sensitivity training. Meet with our professors and our scholars dealing with this stuff, a demand to do that. Number 4 was they had to give like $500,000 to the ADL for them to disperse to anti-hate groups. We said we want y'all to give $2.5 million from each team for to stop this violence in our community. And the final one was anytime you hear a player drop an N-bomb during the game, give them a tech. Starting January 1st, 2023, give them a double tech and eject them from the game. Because if they say anything about any other group of people, they get fined. But yet it's open season on African people, which is a vast majority of the league.
Brother, I'm glad you said that because that's one of the things that I know that someone had proposed the idea of, well, if you're so free in your music to be able to say this, that, and the other, referring to Black or African-American rappers, they say, try saying something derogatory about Italians or Jewish people or Hispanic or any other group and see what kind of a backlash you'll get. Say something about gays, see what kind of a backlash you'll get. But say something about us, this is just dead silence.
Brother, they can't even say nothing about, they couldn't even rap about killing the dog.
Right.
And we asked McDonald's, which is one of the major sponsors of these slop hop stations in Chicago. We asked them, would you buy a commercial on a radio station that plays music about shooting and killing dogs? And they answered right away, no. Then we said, well, why do you buy commercials on these radio stations that rap about shooting and killing black people? And then it was silent.
Now that,
so we got to stand up. We got to step up our piece. We got our program is called the Clear the Airways Project. We work with the National Black Leadership Alliance, Hood Research, CMOTEP, which is a committee to eliminate media offensive to African people. We also are part of the Elevated Arts and Culture Collective of the Nubian Leadership Circle. But we got to organize and put a stop to this madness. We got to, because it's killing us. It's destroying our families. It's just tearing us up, and we have to. And it's music, because music is culture. Music is everything.
Right.
And again, the vast majority of our music being like that, no wonder we have these conditions we're living under right now.
We have a caller on the line, and I want you to give your Facebook page. You know, if people want to acknowledge you and respond. You want to call her?
Okay. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Would you share your name and how you're viewing us, please? Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Okay. Kwame, now give us some contact information for you. We want to make sure we get that.
Yeah. So check us out. If you're on Facebook, one of the main ways that we communicate via Facebook is the Clear the Airways Project.
Clear the Airways Project, okay?
Yeah, and airwaves like ocean waves.
Oh, okay, WAVES.
Yeah, look, the other day we were thinking about adding airways too, as we were on Southwest listening to that madness on their airline. But yeah, Clear the Airwaves Project, and also cleartheairwavesproject.org.
Clear the Airwaves Project, .org.
.org, yes. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you all. You said somebody was calling in, or?
Yes.
They didn't respond.
I dropped a call. But the other question I wanted to ask you is this awards program. Is there a way that we can communicate to them that we disagree with the nomination?
Yes. I don't have the number right in front of me, but it's the Grammys. Their information's out there because we did that last year. And so you can look up the Grammys. Last year it was, what's the guy that the drummer, Harvey Mason. Harvey Mason's son was in charge of the Grammys, and he may still be. So I have to do that checking. But there's people who are planning to protest out in L.A. in February.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. So they're planning that physical protest that matters. This is ridiculous. So, and again, look at the video for Glorilla FNF. Look at the video for. I was with my 9-year-old, 10-year-old niece and her 11-year-old friend yesterday, and I was out fishing, and I'm down south right now. I was out fishing, and I asked them, did they know Glorilla, and all three of them knew her, and they were kind of embarrassed to tell me they knew her. And this is 9, 10, 11-year-old. And this is the type of stuff they're giving to them.
Well, what kind of name is that for a Glorilla?
Glorilla. Look, I'm telling you. Look it up.
How does she present herself? How she look?
She's just typical. You won't be surprised at how she looks with the fake stuff. And in the video, they're pouring hard liquor down each other's throat.
Oh.
They're twerking on cars. There's even a sister that's pregnant out there with them.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, talking about getting oral sex, and it's just in all kind of, it's just horrible.
Oh, wow.
And again, my little 9 and 10-year-old niece and their little friend, 11-year-old, they're forced. Oh, I seen it on TikTok. It's like, come on. Yeah. So, right. So we're gonna get a chance to follow up. I hope to, because we really have to up the ante against them, because they're not stopping on us.
Yeah.
We have to make them stop.
We have to make them stop. Yes. So.
I just think about C. Dolores Tucker, the lady who was fighting against negative music some decades ago, and how she got all kind of backlash from trying to clean up the airwaves. And so now it has gotten far worse because they wouldn't listen to her. You remember her?
Oh, yeah. She, I know Tupac had added her in a song where he was saying how she was trying to punish them or something like that. He actually used her name and her last name, Tucker, which rhymes with another negative word as the same thing. So, yeah, he made her more famous than she would have been otherwise.
Oh.
You know, Tupac, that's family. That's my uncle's godson. But he was wrong. KRS-One was wrong. Back then, I was just coming out of college, and I was with C. Dolores Tucker back then. And I said, one of the things we shared is that if we had listened to C. Dolores Tucker back then, we would not be dealing with this right now. We would not. We had a part of our movement with the National Black Leadership Alliance.
Exactly.
We had these posters that talked about Rick Ross and Kodak Black are wrong. Black women are not B's and H's. And it was embarrassing to even have that up at a conference of conscious black people. I said, because then somebody started talking about C. Dolores Tucker.
Right.
I'm like, if we had listened to her, we wouldn't have to have these embarrassing posters up right now.
Exactly. Oh, boy.
And they still dog out C. Dolores Tucker. We love C. Dolores Tucker and her legacy. Dr. Ife Williams, who succeeded her as the president of the National Congress of Black Women, like I said last year, herself, Hood Research, and Simotep all wrote letters to the Grammys. All wrote letters to the Grammys condemning them for nominating these ratchet kill black people songs.
Yeah, there has to be, I'm glad that you have the organization Clear the Airwaves Project and working with Bob Law as well, and what we need to do, and it's hard to galvanize our people, especially around something that's positive, like Theo and I were talking earlier about Kwanzaa. There's so many things that we could galvanize our people around if they had the mind for, but that attraction to the dark side seems to be overwhelming. And then, as you and I both said, brother, that heavy rotation makes it, even if it wasn't something you wanted to do, by the time you've heard it so much, I can give you a quick example. When I used to work at a particular job, there were some young people, and they allowed you to play your radio, and I didn't really one way or the other care for Lil Wayne, but the song was in such heavy rotation. I knew the words to the song or something I would never even care to listen to, and I just ended up getting headphones so I could block it out. But my point was, again, how many times repetitious it was, I learned words to a song I didn't even care about. And I'll often use the example of, there are a lot of commercials that come on television. You probably don't want no roof or, to get some butter, but they've said it so many times on the television that you actually know the jingle, even though you would never purchase the product. So they know what they're doing.
They know exactly what they're doing. You're so correct. You are so correct. I remember MC Ren, who was with NWA, had this song in the 90s, F What You Heard. And I had it on a cassette. I could take you back. I had a cassette that I had made with all hip-hop on it. And I remember one day in my lawn, in my head, I kept hearing F what you heard. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm supposed to be conscious. So I know if it's doing that to me, if we're doing that to us, what it's doing to our children whose minds aren't even developed yet.
And as you said, your nieces in the 8, 9, 10, they get them really early, and then by the time they've matured, that's what their lifestyle, their mindset is about. That's why I said with my children, I tried to get them to rationalize between sipping on gin and juice and endo and that kind of thing, where they could at least reason it out for themselves. Because again, when we try to prevent them from doing something, like Dad might have said, man, don't be messing with them Penthouse or Playboy things. Well, just because he said don't look at it, I got to look at it now because he forbid me. It must be something to it. So if we have to, like with your nieces, be able to catch them early in the game, or at least give them balance, because they're going to hear that stuff anyway. We can't avoid that, so we got to give them balance so that way they can reason it out and say, yeah, well, it's entertaining, but I would never do that.
And we also got to get it off. We got to get it off the air because they don't do it for no other group of people.
Right.
Only us. It's already. You mentioned Bob Law, and I know talk about him too, because he shared how the reason why they dropped so many N-bombs in this music, and that reason is to assure they're European handlers, that they're not talking about drug and gang raping their daughters, that they are not talking about shooting and killing their sons. That's why they make sure the Lindbombs are dropped in this music.
Oh, okay. We have a caller calling in now.
Hello, caller, you're on the air. Could you give us your name and how you're viewing us, please? Hello, caller, you're on the air.
No. Okay. This is your number.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, we're getting into probably the last 10 to 12 minutes of the show, brother. So one of the things we always like to do is have our guests also repeat the information for those who may have just tuned in late, especially in terms of how to get involved in the Clear the Airwaves project.
Okay, so one of the things that we're doing, I want to make sure we share too. I mentioned the resolution that was passed in Gary, Indiana, with Karen Freeman Wilson, who was the mayor, who is now the Urban League leader in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
It was a resolution condemning the killer radio stations in the Chicagoland area, which Gary is part of. We followed up from our comrades out of Philadelphia called Rage Against the Ratchet, and they had a resolution passed in Wilmington, Delaware. There's also a resolution pending in the largest city in the United States. It's been introduced too long ago, and it's pending condemning the ratchet killer radio stations in New York City, encouraging the FCC to do what they're supposed to do, which is they have decency standards of which these stations are constantly violating them. And the only stations that they have that violate them are the stations that target young African children and youth. And as part of the Elevated Arts and Culture Collective, we are gathering a database of the killer radio stations all around the country. And what we want to do in Detroit and other cities is we want the Detroit City Council to create this resolution. Will help them, and also pass this resolution here and pass this resolution condemning the radio stations that are doing this to the African masses in the Detroit area. And I frequently work there, and I know they're doing it also. That's where I first heard the song Throat Babies, was in Detroit. You just, I shouldn't even said it. Sister Theo, please excuse me. But there was a #1 song in the country called Throat Babies, and you can imagine what it's about. And,
wow. Throat babies? You say throat babies?
Throat babies.
I'm using my imagination, brother, and I'm pretty much sure I know what you're talking about without even getting into the vulgarity of it.
Look at brother, and Sister Theo, I don't want you to look at it, but brother, look at that video. As a matter of fact, there's 2 different videos for that song because they made a remix of it. But look at that video, and man, look. Y'all just don't. I mean, y'all know, but it don't make no sense how horrible this stuff is.
Right.
And then on Memorial Day last year, Memorial Day, this is a station in New York where we had the resolution pending that they haven't heard or passed yet.
Right.
Out of the Breakfast Club, which is aired also in Detroit. But this is that song "Throat Babies" was #1. But Memorial Day weekend, I was listening to the Chicago radio station where they were doing their top songs. And Memorial Day work weekend, they said, as they go off to the #1 song, they said, be safe, be careful out there, and, whatever, put the guns down. Here's #1. And the song, #1 song was called Back in Blood. And the chorus of that song repeats, I ain't got nowhere to go. I done shot up everywhere they was. That was the #1 song in the country, Memorial Day weekend, 2021. The same year where we had 250 rappers die, 200 of them from gun violence. The same year where the United States got nearly a record of 20,000 homicides, of which nearly 60% of them, of the victims of those homicides, were 13% of the population were African people. And this is the type of music that they're playing on radio stations that specifically target our children and our youth.
We're going to try to bring this another caller up here, brother. Hello, caller, you on the air. Would you share your name and how you're viewing us, please? Oh, they just hung up. Don't be shy. But yeah, I'm definitely going to check into it, brother, because myself, I'm a lyricist, and I guess I came up through all this because I'm still here. But my major influences at the time were people like Rakim, Public Enemy, and some of KRS-One stuff, because it had, you know, this was just prior to the gangster rap, which kind of surfaced around '87, and you know, then you had the Sugar Hill Gang and African Bambaataa, obviously before that, but their stuff was more oriented towards partying, and you had X-Clan, which didn't last as long as I wish they had, which were very culturally positive and left good messages, but it seems like those always kind of drift to the side. Rakim is still relevant, and one of the things I liked about him as a MC or rapper was that one of the things he didn't do is he never cursed in his records. I think in the end he may have done a little bit, but in his initial outset as a rapper and MC, he never used profanity at all, and he never encouraged, to the best of my knowledge, anything that had to do with violence or definitely harming the community. Now, I'm sure that his background with the 5 Percenters, which is more or less a New York thing, I think, I'm sure they're around the country or were around the country, but being a part of the 5 Percenters, Charles 13X and that kind of thing, they wouldn't let themselves sink to that level of actually getting into negativity. But then with Ice-T, and then later on, I think Schoolie D out of New York, where Bob is at, that he also got into a little bit of the gangster thing, but it's like around '86, '87 is when gangster rap sort of surfaced and then just basically took over.
Yeah. You pretty much on that. Like I said, Rakim. Shout out Rakim. He just recently shared something about that N-bomb being dropped on Twitter, and he's going all in against that. You know, if you go, you sanction Kanye, which I think was appropriate, but why you letting the N-bomb be dropped all the time on Twitter? So he's going in on that. Chuck D is still doing it. KRS-One still making music. Rakim, you know, I can count on one hand at a time. Rakim is cursed. I got his last full album, and I think I got one curse word on the whole album.
Wow.
Which is too many. But and you know what the thing about him? Nobody calls him soft. So he's exhibit A of how you don't have to do that. If you want to be hard, you got to do that. You know, listen to Rakim. You think he's soft? No. you know?
The brother ain't playing, and that's why I say, you know, even though his transition was away from party music like, you know, the Sugar Hill Gang and those kind of things, he never let his standards drop to a level, and as you say, and I didn't notice, you said it was one curse word out of 4 albums. That's a pretty good record.
On the last album, I counted like 4 or 5 total, but still, you know, I think I maybe counted like 2 N-bombs dropped, which was the most disappointing to me. But it's still, comparatively speaking, you know, he's like he called him the God MC. So yeah, right on.
Yeah, and I was saying how as a lyricist, and I have to, in my lyricism and in my rapping, I never degrade or diminish women, and I never speak about brothers killing each other. So there will be profanity, but it's only for emphasis. It's not to be the narrative of the story, but just to emphasize a point. But I make it a point in what I do also, as I said, not to disparage women, to disparage our culture, because I came up during the era where, okay, the N-word was used, because I'm a baby boomer, okay, so it was used marginally, but most times, because I was part of that thing with the Pan-African Congress, the Shrine of Black Madonna, the Black Panthers, Nation of Islam type of thing, those influences, we just called each other brother. We just didn't use the N-word when I was coming up, and it was used sparingly. And maybe when somebody was having an issue with somebody, you know, maybe they were gambling, but it just wasn't as ubiquitous as it is now, because it's everywhere now, and you heard it very little. And I still, to this day, a brother, no matter what he says, I call him brother. You know, even a Caucasian or Hispanic or whatever, I say brother. So that kind of shows them where I'm at on a mental level, but also to encourage them to use a word that implies bonding as opposed to separation.
Hardly agree. We're only people in mass who call ourselves a name that was given to us by our slave masters.
Right.
And it's so important. My blood brother shared that when these Africans are meet their demise out here in these streets, he asked the question, what's the last word you think they heard or were called? Is it their name? Is it brother? Is it man, or is it that N-bomb being dropped on them?
And one of the things I'm going to say, we getting down to the last few minutes of the show, but it's kind of interesting, and I've kind of posed this to young brothers as well. I say, sometimes you'll use the N-word, as you say, it's a term of endearment, but then there's another time you say, oh, yeah, that's my N. Okay, that's on one level, but then on the other level, you'll say, well, let's kill that N. So what kind of definition are you trying to say this word has if you can use it in a positive or negative light when it shouldn't be used at all? That's why I say the word brother is what I emphasize more than anything.
You know, and that's one of the major issues I struggle with, and I remember Sister Theo brought up the NAACP, and I remember, I think it was in Michigan, where they had the ceremony to bury the N-word.
Yes.
And we were like, our thing is like, it's in history. It's in all this music, you know, Mark Twain, and it's in history. Our thing is, do not call yourself or your people that. That's the thing. Do not call yourself or your people that word. It's the most dangerous, despicable, hateful, evil word in the history of English or any other language, especially if you are an African.
Yeah.
And it's known worldwide.
Yeah, right. So that's a marching order for today. Share others in the family and with friends. Just stop using the word. You know, find a substitute that if you just
say
got to do something. Yeah, right. Yeah. But anyway, Kwabena, thank you so much for joining us today. And we needed to have that information and needed to know some solutions or responses to it. And you've been tuned in to Feedback, a positive image production by Hood Research. And at the end of the program, I like to say, it's not necessary for you to know everything. What is necessary is for you to know how to find what you need when you need it. We at Hood Research seek out as much information and as many people as we can to help bring information to us. And as we do that, it helps us all make better informed decisions. Davidi.
I want to thank you again, brother, and we'll be talking to you in the future. And as I always say at the end of every show, if you want to be nothing, do nothing. But the only problem with doing nothing is you never know when you're finished.
All right. And remember, the contact number for Hood Research is area code 248-234-2371. Again, area code 248-234-2371. And we want you to know that we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have a website. We want you to get the number so that you can join us on Saturday afternoons between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. for our telephone conference call. You don't have to leave your house, your easy chair, or your bed even, just to tune in and share with us on Saturday afternoons. And then I want you to come back on Monday morning, 9 a.m. It's Feedback. Peace.
Feedback.
Hi, this is Theo Broughton.
And I am Thabiti Mpinda.
Inviting you to join us each Monday at 9 a.m. for Feedback,
a positive image production by Hood Research.
Encourage others to tune in each Monday on
Comcast Detroit, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, watch WHPR TV Network anywhere.
And take us along with you.
Feedback.